Joining me now is Drew Zimmerman, CEO of Stallion Uranium. Great to see you again, Drew.
Great to see you too, Mark. It's been a little while.
Right. We spoke at the VRIC in late January. You're going to give us an update. There's been a lot of news flow since then, and you'll get to that. But just for those who may not be that familiar, and even for those who are, if you can sort of refresh us on the strategy at Stallion to go big in the southwestern part of the Athabasca Basin in search of that next discovery, that next big elephant.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you just hit the nail on the head there. I mean, our whole vision from the beginning was the Athabasca Basin, is second to none for uranium deposits anywhere around the world. And that has really been focused on the eastern side of the Athabasca Basin. It started at the edge, in the early 70s, and then a decade or more later, bigger discoveries got found into the basin, into the depth of the sandstone. So our thesis is the Southwest is just as well endowed as the Eastern Basin. It just hasn't had that discovery or that exploration. So the discoveries that have happened, fissions, Triple R, NextGen's Arrow, are on the edge of the basin. And our land package, the largest in the Southwest, steps into the basin, going into that underexplored area that we think has the potential to host, multiple big discoveries like the ones that have been found on the Eastern Basin, the Cigars, the MacArthurs, the Griffins, the Phoenix, the Hurricanes, the Rough Riders. Those are still in the West, just not discovered. So Stallion's whole process has been go really big, 3,000 square kilometers, and then do these surveys that focus us in on the best potential zones, the 0.1% of the land that could host those next monster deposits.
Right. So the team started the drilling of the Appaloosa target a few months ago. The assays came in. You say there was a definite presence of uranium. Can you elaborate on the report?
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big success for us. That was our first target that went all the way through our exploration funnel, as we're calling it, all the way down to drill testing. All three holes had anomalous radioactivity and above background uranium. Most importantly, though, on the final hole, we hit our big graphitic conductor. So this is what we call the plumbing of the Athabasca Basin for these big uranium deposits. And we know exactly where that plumbing system is now because we intersected it. We know it's big. It was 95 meters across. And we know exactly where we want to drill next, where this big graphitic conductor goes up and meets the unconformity. And again, we'll be looking for these unconformity style uranium mineralization deposits. So for us, it was a incredibly well run program that hit all of the targets that we wanted to, or hit the objectives that we wanted to hit, and sets us up incredibly well for a follow-up drill program that we think can provide a discovery. And we all know that in the Athabasca Basin, with the size and the grades of the deposits that are there, a discovery hole can absolutely be a game changer for a small company like Stallion Uranium.
Right, for sure. Now, something else the company did was release some results from an aerial gravity survey over sections of the joint venture that you own with Atha Energy. You say the results were highly encouraging. So what were some of the highlights there?
Yeah, and again, just to take a step back, when we look at this big 3,000 square kilometer land package, it's been regional work, and now these next level surveys that we're doing to upgrade certain target areas. So this gravity survey is one of those upgrading surveys, and more can be found here. We just put out a piece on our exploration funnel that you can find on our socials. And again, if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get it directly to you. But it was one of those upgrading surveys, and this one really focused on areas of the R7 conductor. That's a conductor that was found by NextGen Energy, goes from their ground onto our ground. So really, wanting to know from the initial regional surveys if that target was going to be a higher priority target, and we were very encouraged by those gravity results over that target, as well as some of the other areas as well. But again, it's being able to bring this big land package down into sort of specific target areas that we can focus in on and ultimately drill test. So again, that survey really helped us upgrade some of those targets that we covered, and being able to move those projects forward.
Other activity, Drew, that the team has been up to is outlining 5 conductive trends and key targets at Sandy Lake. Can you update us there? What's the latest?
Yeah, Sandy Lake's an incredibly interesting target for us. Again, we've sort of got our Appaloosa target on the eastern side, Shea Creek, which is Uranium Energy Company in Orano's 100 million pound on the ground deposit. And then about 10 or 11 kilometers further to the west is our Sandy Lake project. So we ran a AFMEG, a mobile MT survey over that, highlighting those conductive trends. Very interesting, similar sort of features that we were seeing at Appaloosa. So again, another target area that we're sort of bringing up towards drill readiness, probably just needing a focused ground survey on that to have drill targets. And again, very exciting because it's in an area that we know has a lot of uranium mineralization. We know, what the geological features we want to see, given what we know from Shea Creek and now also our Appaloosa target. So again, it's just another key target that Stallion's been able to bring along our exploration pipeline of areas that could have a potential uranium discovery.
On the financial side, Stallion has done a couple of private placements the last while. How would you characterize the cash position? Are you nicely cashed up at the moment?
Yeah, we did a financing just after we saw each other in January. They gave the company the ability to go out and drill Appaloosa. And again, obviously take us from a very early stage exploration all the way to having an advanced project that was drill tested and warranting follow-up, which was key. And then in the end of July, we just closed a smaller $2.5 million financing that has allowed us to continue to upgrade a lot of these other targets and give us a pretty good cash balance to be able to take into the fall to continue to go to work as we get ready to look to follow up our drill program at Appaloosa in January of 2025.
Now, Drew, when we spoke at VRIC in late January, uranium was hot to say the least. I remember all the keynote speeches and the uranium booths were just packed with people. Uranium was at around 105 a pound at that point. Uranium stocks were hot. Fast forward to today, uranium now trading around 80 a pound, still a solid number, but not 105. And the likes of Cameco, for example, down about 30% from its peak. So how would you describe the current sentiment in the uranium market right now?
Yeah, I think what we're in is a consolidation phase, which should be expected. We had uranium prices going from, $20 or a little over in a fairly steep ascent all the way up to 106 that we saw at the beginning of this year, like you mentioned. So to pull back and consolidate around $80 a pound, and that's the spot price. I think the important piece to look at if you know the uranium market is the contracting longer term price. And that's continued to move up. It's up over 30% this year. So when those big utilities are buying uranium, they're continuing to pay more now than they were at the beginning of this year. So I think it's just a matter of time before we start to see the spot price start to move again. We're in a structurally undersupplied market with, no relief valve. We've learned that from Kazatomprom. They cannot, turn the taps on, so to speak. So I think it's going to be a great place to be. We're seeing, governments around the world continue to get behind clean, reliable baseload nuclear power. And I think that's what sets us up for, a very long bull run. And, markets are sort of the, shorter term weighing machine, and it's a pendulum of emotion that comes into things. So maybe they got a little overpriced at the beginning of this year, and I think underpriced now given the outlook that we have going forward. So we're incredibly excited about what we see coming, not only over the next couple of months into this fall, but over the next couple of years and really the next decade. The uranium and nuclear power space has never looked better. And new news keeps coming out almost on a weekly basis that just continues to grow that underlying bullish sentiment that we have in the sector.
You make a good point about the contract market. We talked to Mike Alkin from Sachem Cove Partners a while ago, and he said that's what investors need to look at. And the fact that you mentioned the prices are up about 30% this year, very interesting and relevant for sure. Now let's wrap it up here. in terms of the potential for Stallion Uranium? You think there's massive upside potential because, as you say, just takes one discovery and it can really move the needle in a big way. We saw that with the likes of F3 most recently. As an example, that's an example you've used as well. But as you know, sometimes it's hard to get attention in the market for junior explorers. So can you fold in your investment case with some catalysts to look for and the outlook for Stallion?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, being in the basin, as you said, and as I've said, I mean, one drill hole absolutely can change one of these companies overnight. I mean, we are looking for multi-billion-dollar deposits. There's no other way to say it than that. I mean, it sounds outlandish to say, but it is the truth in the Athabasca Basin. And we have the potential very near term to do that with a follow-up drill program at Appaloosa. And I think if you continue to follow our news flow, when we do these other upgrading surveys, we're showing that we're going to have multiple tier 1 targets. That if these were in the Eastern Basin and 20 or 30 years ago, they would have, 100 drill holes in them that have never been, drill tested or even had an effective ground survey over top of them. So bringing up, multiple target areas that we think have all potential to have a serious deposit underneath them that are incredibly compelling. And the other sort of ace in our back pocket is we have held on to one of our initial assets. Horse Heaven is a gold and critical mineral, gold and antimony project in central Idaho that we still have and we think has tremendous value to it. And we're looking to unlock that value in the near term to be able to provide value for our shareholders and upside to a project like that, while being able to focus on our uranium projects in the Southwest Athabasca Basin. So a bit of an extra kicker with the gold asset, but I think alone with what we're doing, the work that we've already done in the last couple of years, and the fact is, when you're starting that big, we're doing a lot of big regional survey work that doesn't tend to get a lot of market attention. We've now started to move down to upgrading targets where we can start talking about tangible pieces of the geology that show us why we think this could be such a strong target area, why it could be a deposit. And when we already have one target moving through that process, we think that validates the process for the other targets along the way as well. So it's an incredibly exciting time as we kind of get to that more advanced experience stage of exploration and really be able to bring several of these targets forward. And again, hopefully be able to have that one discovery hole near term that could, 5 to 10x a company overnight is always the exciting thing about the junior exploration game.
Absolutely. And I just want to pick up on the Idaho asset. When you say unlock value, what are some of the options there?
Yes, and I know I've sounded a bit of a broken record on this, but we are in talks with a couple of groups. And again, the key thing is we've been waiting for the catalyst to come to this project for several years, and they're really just starting to come. And the biggest one just actually came this morning. Perpetua got their final environmental impact study and their draft record of decision to go forward and build the stibnite project. That's the big project right next door. Will be the only U.S. source of antimony. So again, it's a lot of good things happening there that are very good for that project that will allow us to unlock some value. And again, wanting our shareholders to be able to participate in the future of that. So again, not wanting to sound like a broken record, but looking to bring something to the market sooner than later in that regard.
Okay, great, Drew. We really appreciate the update, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for your time today.
Yeah, I always appreciate being on with you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
All right, Drew Zimmerman. He is the CEO of Stallion Uranium. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.